Hi guys, welcome back. For today's lesson, we are going to be making a basic female trouser. Because I don't want the videos to be too long, so we are going to be dividing the class into two. The first aspect is the pattern drafting aspect, which we are going to do in this video. Then the part two will be the cutting and sewing of the trouser. So this particular trouser we are going to make is a basic trouser. There are different ways of drafting a basic trouser. There's a way you can draft your pattern on the same page, that is on the same pattern paper, and there is a way you can draft it separately. Because I want this tutorial to be as simple, as easy, and beginners friendly as possible, so I'll be drafting my pattern separately on different pattern paper. So this particular method that I want to use, you can do it directly on your fabric, and at the same time you can do it on your pattern paper. You're going to need the following measurements. So your waist to the ankle, which is the trouser length, your waist to the hip line, your waist to the knee. Then you also need your waist circumference, your thigh circumference, that is your lap. You need your hip circumference. You need your crotch, and you also need your knee circumference. If you are making a fitted pants, maybe you want it to be like a pencil pants, you're going to need your ankle circumference. But in this case, we do not need that because you are making a basic trouser. So if you do not have all these basic measurements, so far you have the trouser length, the hip circumference, and the waist circumference. There is a way we can get every other measurement, like your crotch, your hip line, and your knee line. Okay, so we are going to start with the front pattern. Then to start with, what I'm going to do now is to draw a margin line at the top edge of the pattern paper like so, and also by the side. So this line that I have here, this vertical line that I have here, is going to serve as my side front. In this case, this is going to be the waistline, and here is going to be the side front, not the center front this time around. So the center front will be towards this part. I would suggest you work with your pencil first before you use your marker pen to make the lines visible, in case you make mistake or you want to erase some lines and so on like that. The first thing you want to do now is to take the trouser length. So from here, which is the waistline, I'm going to measure down to my trouser length. I've taken the trouser length, and here is it here. So the trouser length and the folding allowance of 1 inch each. Okay, so if you want yours to be 1 inch, you can add 1 inch for your folding allowance here. Okay, so then if you want your trouser length to be up to the floor, you can just add 2 inches to your trouser length. Okay, after this now we are going to take all other vertical measurements, which includes our crotch depth or crotch line, the hip line, the knee line. Okay, the first thing we are going to calculate now is our crotch depth or crotch line. So for you to be able to do that, you have to divide your hip circumference by 4. Is when you're making a trouser, make sure that you have a correct measurement. Whatever you get from dividing your hip circumference by 4 is what you're going to mark here. You're going to mark it on the waistline. You're going to mark it down, because we are trying to create a box. We're trying to create something like a box. Okay, so I'll come here and I'm going to mark the 8.75. If yours can be less or more than this, okay, so you connect the line like so. So here is my crotch line or crotch depth. So you go ahead and label your pattern accordingly. So after the crotch, you want to take the hip line. If you have the hip line measurements, just measure from the waist down to wherever the hip line is. So here I have my own hip line. So, and if you do not have the person's hip line, you can simply measure 2 inches away from your crotch line like so. Using this method now, there is little or no difference. Okay, because at the end you are still going to get the same measurements. At the end, you're still going to get the same value. So here is mine. Okay, then my hip line is about 7 inches. So the difference I have between this one now is just like 0.25. Okay, so you see that it's almost close, but it is advisable you take the person's measurement. But if the person is not available, just measure upward 2 inches from the crotch line. So here's the hip line. Label your hip line. So the other vertical measurement we need now is the knee line. So let's say you do not have the person's waist to knee measurement. What you're going to do is to measure from the crotch down to the trouser length. Okay, you divide whatever you have there into 2. Okay, so let's measure this one now. From the crotch to the trouser length, I have about 30.25. So 30.25 divided into 2, that is about 15.1. Okay, so let's say 15 inches. So from this 15 inches now, you go up by 1 or 1.5 inches. Okay, so if you go up by 1 or 1.5 inches, that is where you are going to take as your knee line. So I'm going to measure from my crotch down to that place now. I have 13.5. So I'm going to measure my 13.5 forward, like so, and I'm going to connect. So if you want to go up by 1 inch, it's fine. And if you want to go up by 1.5, you can always do the same thing. So now, for my own measurements now, my shoulder to knee is 38 inches. So if I subtract my upper body is from 38 inches. I have about 16 inches minus 38. So if I measure from 16 down to 38, this is what I have. So it's almost close. You see that it is very close to this line here. All right. So if I decide to maintain my knee line, I'm going to stop here. So the difference we have is not even up to 0.5. So I'm just going to maintain the same line as my knee line. Now we are going to proceed to the horizontal measurements, which includes the measurement that goes around the body. You have the waist circumference, the hip circumference, the thigh or the lap, the knee circumference, and the ankle. But in this case, we are not making use of the ankle. I already said that because this is the basic trouser pattern. Now, on the waistline now, what you want to do, this is the side front, and here is going to be our center front. Okay, so what we are going to do now, the first thing we want to do, remember that we measured our hip divided by 4 here and here. Okay, so this line I'm going to connect it to the crotch depth. Okay, so I'm just going to come here and measure the hip circumference divided by 4 again. So we are going to be working within this box. From the center front, you measure towards the side for the waist circumference divided by 4. So my waist is 28 divided by 4, I have 7 inches. So if you want to have a dart on this, you're going to add 1 inch for your dart intake. But if you want to eliminate the dart, you just go ahead and measure your original measurement. So I'm going to add 1 inch for my dart intake here, and I'm going to connect to the hip line. I'm going to connect with this, my cuff line, to the hip line area. Okay. So now here is for the waist. Now, so the next thing now is the crotch extension. Remember that the trouser used to have this kind of curve at the front like this. To get the crotch extension now, it is 2 ways. Okay, some people make use of their thigh measurement divided by 2. My thigh divided by 2 is 10.5. Let's just measure and mark that first. Okay, here is the thigh measurement divided by 2. So another thing is to divide your hip circumference by 20. Okay, my hip measurement divided by 20 is 1.75. Okay, so if I should measure 1.75 from this point, you see that it is almost on the same line. I guess you can see this is 1.75 here. If I should measure it from here, it is still on the same spot. You can also measure 2 inches from this line. Okay, because most of the time 2 inches work for most people. So even if you measure the 2 inches, the difference I still have between this is not up to ½ inch. It is just like 0.25. All right, so you can just go ahead and measure 2 inches. But if you are on a bigger size, just go ahead and calculate the person's hip circumference divided by 20. Okay, so that is our crotch extension. You come to this hip line and go out by 0.25. You measure 0.25 outward like this. All right, you come to this point here, you measure 1 inch. You measure 1 inch diagonally like this. So another problem people used to have with trouser is this crotch area. So the reason why I mark this 1 inch 0.25 here is to guide me when I'm connecting with a curve, so that I don't want because I don't want the curve to be too deep, and at the same time I want to get the perfect crotch. So that measurement is just going to guide me, and I'm going to connect like so. So you make use of this 0.25 here and you connect back to this line. Make sure you make use of those lines. So the next thing we are going to do now is to get our crease line. Okay, so to get the crease line is that line that we have in between our trouser at the front. So people call it gator. So you are going to measure whatever you have here, divide it into 2 equal half, like so. If you have an odd number, you can just make sure you make use of your cm. Cm is quite easier to divide, and at the same time you can just fold your tape like so to get where exactly is the midpoint. So you measure from here, from that midpoint you measure to the side, and you do the same thing on the knee line. This is because we want to get accurate measurements. Then you do the same thing on the trouser length, same thing on the sewing allowance that we added. So from here now I'm going to connect with a straight line back to the knee line like so. Then I'm going to connect it back to the crotch line. So this line that we have here is our crease line, crease, and a line. Okay, so this crease line is going to guide us when we want to take our knee circumference measurements. Your knee circumference, your round knee divided by 2. Mine is 14. The 7 inches is what I needed on this place, because this pattern is going to be multiplied by 2. So, but because I have a crease line, I needed accurate measurement on both sides. So that 7 inches, I'm going to divide it into 2 again. So that is 3.5 on both sides of this line. So go ahead and measure your circumference and you mark it like so. So from this line, you are going to connect back to this line. this crotch line. Then from here, you're also going to connect to the crotch line. But the connection you're going to have is going to be a bit curved. It's not going to be a straight line because our body is not straight. And obviously, what we have here is going to look like a curved line. So from this crotch, another thing you need to put in mind is this crotch area. When you want to connect this crotch, please make sure that you don't have it too deep. So you mind the way you place your curve like so. So you can simply just place it. You see the way I place my curve. If you have a pant curve, please make use of your pant curve. It's quite easier because some people do not know how to make use of this particular curve line. So you are just going to connect it. The line has to be shallow. You don't want it to be too deep. Connect to the knee line like so. Did you see? You see that the line is shallow. So another method you can use is connecting with a straight line. So you connect with a straight line like so, from your crotch extension down to your knee. So you measure whatever you have on this line, you measure it and divide into two equal. I'll find the midpoint of that line. Then you go in by half an inch. So if you go in by half an inch, you see that the half an inch is still on this curve. So if you go in by half an inch, you will now use your curve to create that curve that you need, but it must pass through this half an inch. It's just like the way we connect our armhole measurement. Okay, this is just to make sure that we are careful about the curve that we have here, because most of the time the problem we have with this crotch area is a curve that is too deep or too shallow. All right, so that will be that for. So from the knee line, you're going to connect back to the trouser length, and I'm going to be using a straight line this time around. So whatever you take here, you're going to take it on the trouser length as well. Remember, we took 3.5 on both sides. Because this is a basic trouser, whatever you have on the knee is what you're going to transfer to the trouser length. So if you want it to be fitted, that means you're going to take your ankle measurements on the trouser length. All right, but because I want this to be the same, I'm going to connect with a straight line like so. So this is what it's going to look like. So but if you want a pencil or a fitted trouser, it's definitely going to be shallow than this one because you are making a fitted one. But this is just a basic trouser. Whatever you have on the knee is what you're going to have on the trouser length. So we go back to the knee. You're going to connect to the crotch area. So this time around, you want to make use of your curve, your pant curve, your hip curve, or whatever curve you are making use of. And if you do not have a curve, it's not a problem. You can use your straight line. Then you connect back like so. You see, so if your measurement is bigger than this, if you're a curvy person or you have a bigger hip, a smaller waist, your measurement is definitely going to be bigger than this, of course. And the connection here is going to be a bit deep because your hip is bigger than your knee circumference. So this is what the front will look like. So the next thing you want to do is to come back to this waist circumference. So now you come back to the waist and take your dart. Whatever you have here, you divide into two, like so. From there, you come down by 4.5 inches. Okay, 4.5 inches for the dart line. Then you are going to connect with a straight line. So remember, we added 1 inch for the dart. So I'm going to take 0.5 on both sides, like so. Then I'm going to connect back to this 4.5. Just like the way you take your waist dart on your basic bodies. All right, so here is our waist dart. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is to come to this center front line. Remember that our tummy is not totally straight. I'm going to be fixing a band on this trouser. So if you want to have a band on your trouser, you want the band to include the length of the trouser. You subtract the band height from the trouser length. Okay, so but if you want to have additional band after your normal trouser length, just like the way I want to do this one, I want to have another band after my trouser length. So let's say your trouser length is 40 and you want 2 inches for the band height. That means you're going to be taking away 2 inches like so, and you measure down to your trouser length, so it does not disturb your crotch. So even if you want to calculate your crotch, you are still going to start from that 2 inches down, right? So if you want to make a bandless trouser, you're going to do your trouser like this. All right, sorry, I didn't know that part is not showing. So what I did here, I just divide what I have here into two like so. I find the midpoints, and I take 0.5 on both sides. I'm really sorry, I forgot to reposition my camera. So now the next thing is to come here and go down by half an inch on the waist like so, on the center front, go down by half an inch, and you can also do 1 inch. All right, so you connect from here, connect back to the waistline. Okay, because we are going to be fixing a band, and our band is not going to be a straight line. Okay, so when we get to the sewing pattern, when you get to the sewing part of this trouser, we understand the essence of this one very well. So with this, we are done with the front body. So what you are going to do now, you can just go ahead and add your stitching allowance of 0.5 on both sides. On this side like this, go up by half an inch. Go up by half an inch and you connect like so. This is just to make sure that our trouser is sitting well on our waist. All right. So this is also this. We also have this on our skirts as well. Okay. So now with this, we are done with the front pattern. As you can see, I did not add any stitching allowance to this. This is because we are going to have our allowance on the back pattern. So I'm just going to make all this line visible now so that we know which exactly we are going to be working with. We are going to cut it out, then we are going to draft the back pattern. So when you're about to cut this upper part, just fold in your dart like so. Fold in your dart before cutting out the waist. All right, because we are just assuming that you already closed the dart. Do you understand? So you close the dart like so before you cut out the waist. Okay. So now I'm going to place this on another piece of paper. For the back pattern, you are going to place your front on another piece of paper like this. If you are doing it directly on your fabric, that means you're going to fold your fabric into two and you place your front on the back. For the back, you are going to leave about 2.5 inches at the top like so. If you're on a bigger size, you leave about 3.5 to 4 inches depending on your size. So after that, you trace out the hip line, the crotch line, and the knee line, just like I did on both sides. The reason why you need this allowance is because we needed to create a room for the butt to sit into our trouser. I'm going to be raising the center back here. Remember that this is the center front and here is our center back. So just to have a step-by-step process, you can just mark like this. Extend the line like this. This is just a guide. It is totally optional. The reason why you need to raise the back is because we want to create a room for the butt to sit inside. All right. So you need to raise this part. So that is why you need the allowance. Now, from here, from this center front, this is going to be our center back. So from here, we're going to measure 1.5 inches upward. For my size, is 1.5. If you are on a bigger size, you can measure 2.5, 3 inches or more, depending on your measurement. So from this line that I have here, I'm going to measure 1.5, like so. So from this 1.5, you connect back to this waist area. And when I'm placing my paper on the back, you see that I draw a line here. Okay, this line that I have here is to make sure that my side front and the side back align, because all our allowance is going to be at the center like this. Okay, so from this line, I'm going to connect to those waists. Although there are different ways of doing this, people have different method, but this is just the method that I work with that works for me, and I decided to share with you guys. So on this line, you're going to take your waist circumference divided by 4. You had 2 inches. Okay, you had 2 inches. So this is where the line stops. Okay, so from here now, I'm going to connect straight down to this crotch. Now you come to the crotch. Now you measure 2 inches. You can go as far as 2.5 inches or 3 inches or even more if you are on a bigger size. So whatever you have here, so here I have 2.5 inches. I'm going to measure 2 inches down. All right, so if you have 2 inches here, you can simply measure the 2 inches by the side, or you measure 1.5. But because I have 2.5 here, I'm going to measure 2 inches by the side straight down to the trouser length. So after marking it, I connected it, as you can see. So I'm going to connect back to the crotch, just like we connect the front, but make sure your curve is not deep. Remember the way we connected the front. You can use the step-by-step method, and you can also use your pant curve. So this is it. Now we need to create a curve just like this one at the back as well. So for you to be able to do that, that is why I connected from here straight down to this crotch. So from this crotch now, you just measure out your 1 inch, just like we did for the front, like so. And here you measure your 0.25. Then you're going to connect it back. I just hope you can see what I'm doing. Okay. You don't want it to be too deep again. You want it to be shallow. So you're going to connect back to this line. So this is a method in which you can use to get your perfect crotch for the back. And at the same time, there's another thing you can do. You can simply just measure whatever you have here, your 2 inches, you measure it like this. So if you measure 2 inches from this crotch line, you see that it is almost on the same line. You measure your 2 inches like this. You measure your 2 inches, you measure your 2 inches upward. Okay, so that is another method in which you can use. So there are different methods of creating your crotch at the back. Okay, this measurement we have here includes our waist. That okay, people make use of different methods to create their trouser pattern. So if I should measure 2 inches from this, let me use this other pen. So if I should measure 2 inches from this point now, if I measure 2 inches from this, from my crotch up to the waist, if I measure it upward, I'm going to have something like this. This dotted line is the new line that I'm going to have. You see that the difference between this dotted line and this pencil is not that much. So that is why even if you measure your 2 inches like this, you are still going to be on the right spot. For this one, I'm just going to maintain this my pencil that I have here. And for the side, you're just going to trace out what you have here. I'm going to trace out the lines that I'm going to be working with so that we can see clearly before I cut it out. So as you can see, these are the lines. This line that I mark red are the lines that I'm going to be working with. So I'm going to start by cutting off this part. And so this is what we have at the end. So I'm just going to label this. I'll be cutting 2 for the front, and I'm also going to be cutting 2 for the back. Okay, so guys, that'll be all for the pattern drafting. In my next video, we are going to be cutting and sewing the basic trouser using this beautiful Ankara print. Okay, so if you have Ankara fabric, you can make use of it, and you can also make use of any fabric of your choice. So please turn on the notification bell so that whenever I drop the part 2 of this video, that is the cutting and sewing of the trouser, we are going to be having a side pocket, we are going to be having a waistband, and maybe you're going to be having a front zip with zipper fly and shield. Okay, so please, I guess it's something you don't want to miss. So that'll be all. Thank you very much for watching. If you find this video helpful, kindly click on the like button, give it a thumbs up, click on the subscribe button if you are yet to subscribe, turn on the notification bell so whenever I drop the part 2 of this video, you'll be the first person to know. And also I'll be dropping the link to the previous pants that I have made, the short pants, the pattern drafting, the cutting and sewing, then the freehand method of cutting this basic trouser. I already have that, so I'm going to be dropping the link and some other interesting tutorials in the description box, so kindly check it out, share so that we can reach as many people as possible that might be interested in this kind of video. And do not forget to subscribe to the channel if you are yet to do so. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Till next time that we'll meet again in my next tutorial. Bye bye.